current numbers to give you, but I can tell you, I can kind of go through the overall. We did an update for the law enforcement, which included Council Bluffs Police Department and the Pot County Sheriff's Office, along with Council Bluffs Fire, Mayor Council Bluffs, and just to kind of go over the vaccination planning for individuals, and that was with the release of our Potawatomi County COVID-19 vaccination strategy draft that you would have all seen come out. That does align with, this is the state's larger document. We made sure that we really went through what their vaccine strategy was, so that way we could align it with ours. The main points to really take away from ours that coincides with what the state's is that it will be a phased approach. Phase 1, we just had a meeting with the state at 12 o'clock today, and they do anticipate that at the state level receiving vaccine on or around December 14th. That'll be a limited number of doses available. Those limited number of doses, it is still not yet decided on who is going to be first to receive those, but there's a advisory panel out there, it's the ACIP, that will go through, and they had a meeting yesterday that went from noon to 5 to discuss what their recommendations are going to be. That will go to the CDC, the FDA, and then trickle down to the state level. Once it gets to the state level, there's already ongoing discussions internally at Iowa Department of Public Health on what they're going to recommend as far as when it reaches us. Our vaccine strategy in there just shows that we are going to align ourselves with what the state's recommendations are and work off of that path. Phase 2, which we anticipate will be in January, February. That is when we have a larger number of doses available, supplies likely to meet the demand. At that point in time, we will be running a mass vaccination clinic and to do general public people, along with, at that time, our long-term care, healthcare providers, law enforcement, fire and EMS will all be taken care of. We're entering into general population doses. We are not, public health is not going to be the only one providing this vaccination, and that's really important. People are going to be able to go to their healthcare providers and receive the vaccination there. They do not necessarily have to attend a public health clinic. The public health side of it, we're there to really meet that demand of people that do not have their healthcare providers available. And so at the health systems, there's been discussions going on. Not only how they're going to vaccinate their own staff, but then outreach to their clinics and what that's going to look like. There was a lot of concern because in our area, we do not have the ability to store that sub-zero vaccine from Pfizer. What the state is, I had conversations with the state yesterday, and what their plan is that we would not be shipped any of the sub-zero vaccine, but we would more be receiving the other doses that do not require that. We have the ability to store, but there are backup plans in place in case they do have to ship us the sub-zero. There's just timelines within 5 days. It has to be reconstituted and used. So we continue to work through those things, but we wanted everyone in the general public and as far as elected officials to be able to start pushing out that there has been a lot of planning behind this. Potawatomi County is ready to receive vaccine and to be able to pop up a clinic and start giving doses out to the public. We have our online registration system through Neapolitan Labs is almost completed. They're finishing up the Spanish translation part of it right now. You'll be able to go on to and register for a time that meets their needs, which will help us control traffic flow through the site. We know that at the site we have designed for, we can handle 160 people through that site per hour, 1,600 people per day. Over the course of 5 days, we'd be looking at 8,000 people, which is what we estimated our portion of having to do vaccine would be. There are different times depending on what vaccines we get. Some of the vaccines, you have a return time of 21 days. Other vaccines, you have a return time of 28 days. But we have the secondary appointments built in to where once we check that box, you will be sent reminders directly from the system. It's an automated process. In total, from our automated process, you would be contacted a total number of 8 times once you've registered for this vaccine. Not only in reminders on where to show up at, but there's a map link in there. So they'll be able to click directly on the map link, provide directions straight to the site. It has a QR code. As they enter into the site, QR code would be scanned at registration, documents verified. sent back to triage, determine which vaccine they're eligible for, and then back to dispensing, and then into recovery. So we worked with HR to send out, due to staffing, everybody's heard healthcare staffing is strained, public health staffing is strained. We reached out internally through HR to ask the employees of Potawatomi County if they would have interest in helping us at the vaccination clinic. We have a lot of employees here who have secondary skill sets that could be potentially useful. They may be paramedics, EMTs, volunteer fire, whatever the case may be. And those employees are going to be given the opportunity to sign up on that volunteer part of it. And then we will hold training sessions, probably starting at the end of next week, just to do initially a high-level overview of what the clinic will look like, break them down into their job positions, and then we have job position training scheduled for each one of the positions within there. So that job training will not only include where to report, when to report, who to report to, where your PPE is, how to don and doff PPE, and then all of the safety protocols as well in there. So we want this to be one of the best parts of what the public remembers of this pandemic. When everybody thinks back to H1N1, all the interviews we conducted leading up to this, the biggest thing that people remember is the long lines they had to stand in and how horribly they thought that the vaccination clinics went. We need this piece to be reflective of who we are and the effort that we've put forth. So we want it to be as smooth as process as we can for the residents and as well organized as we can, because that's going to be reflective of our efforts into this and the part that they remember of us. So out of the public health leadership team, I would tell you that we really have gone over this, every different situation that we could have on the interviews of the nurses, to where we know that some people don't show up dressed appropriately for shot clinics. So we had to go back to the staff at the facility and say, can you provide us privacy screening? Because they may have to undress quite a bit just to get an arm out to be able to give them the vaccine. We know that the chair heights have to be the same level across from the person receiving the vaccine to the person dosing the vaccine, because that affects the angle of the needle and different things that go in there. So we've really gone over every single process within this clinic a number of times to make sure that we really get this right for the public and the residents and make it smooth for us. I think Operation Warp Speed, being able to get those vaccines to us, will probably be kind of one of those government operations that will not necessarily get the credit that it deserves, as far as being able to, they're manufacturing this vaccine at the same time that the studies are going on, so that way as they're approved, they will be able to get it out to us. They've selected 5 different locations within the state of Iowa that this vaccine is going to go to, so that way it can be shipped right to each of the providers directly. Local public health part in this is on the IRIS system. We will go in every morning. All of the providers in our area we've worked with to sign up for provider agreements. They sign up in their provider agreements, they're scheduled down on a list then where they can ask for different amounts of vaccine. We go in each morning and we're going to be constantly monitoring that list and approving the vaccines that they've ordered. Our approval goes back up to the state, they review it. Once it's approved by the state, the vaccine gets shipped directly to them with their ancillary supplies that go along with it. So we're not going to be a distribution hub as it was in H1N1, where the vaccine all came to us and then went out from us. It's going to go directly from the state to the providers. We're just clicking on the approvals and making sure it verifies with the amounts that they gave us that they're going to be able to dispense. Because we don't want to have to go back through a reallocation process of, Clinic A over here, on one side of town has this amount and they're not utilizing it, so it can go to Clinic C in one of our smaller communities outside of the area, and how do we logistically work that process out of shipping vaccine around. So I think the vaccine strategy that we put out is hopefully reflective of that. And if you have any other further clinics or further questions of kind of like our clinic styles and types, we can go over those kind of individually, so that way we don't necessarily have to put out locations or anything like that today. And then you can kind of see, we have flow charts of how it's going to walk through there and floor plans, and everybody can see how that works out. But while we don't have hard dates on when these clinics would be, we just have those expected timeframes from the state. And as we saw today with the new information that came out, these drafts are so fluid because they get new information and they put that to us. What we do know is that we would run our clinics Wednesdays through Sunday, and we would run on Wednesday through Friday from noon to 8 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, we will be running from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. That will allow us enough time in the mornings to gear up and get ready to go, allow us at shutdown time to close everything out and take care of all of our bio waste that we have to take care of. And hopefully it will be accessible to the public on the times that they're not working to be able to get down to us. And as you know, of course, it'll be all socially distanced out. You'd be screened at the door and all of those things.
So it's all free to the public, is that correct or not?
That is correct.
Okay. The second thing, so once this starts rolling, 2 of the vaccines, my understanding, have you have to get double doses. So I don't know if it's 14, 17, or 14 and 20 days. So those people that haven't got, are getting the first dose will also potentially be mixing in with people that are coming to get their second dose? Is that?
There's a potential of that happening. Each of the vaccines, there's 6 different vaccines in development right now. Only one of the vaccines is rated for under 18 years of age. All of the 6 vaccines have a 2-dose series that go with them.
They all do.
They all do. They vary in time frames. The earliest time frame is 21 days for a return date. The longest time frame that we saw in there was either 54 or 57 days for a return time frame on it. But everybody will have to come back for a second round, and that's.
They're not certified as being COVID, whatever, I don't know proper words, free or whatever, until they get both doses.
Correct. You need both doses.
And I thought the one that was today, was it AstraZeneca or somebody today that, I thought they said theirs was just a one, the temperature wasn't a real big fluctuation for them, and it was a one shot and done deal.
Unless something changed from, it would have been last Thursday, there was a meeting that we attended virtually with the CDC and the FDA. All of them were 2-dose series that they discussed.
Okay. So we'll be running potentially overlapping doses in people.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's where the scheduling software was really important to us, because we needed to be able to monitor away on, we could say that this is our max number of people that we can handle during a certain hour. That kind of breaks down into how far do we break this down. Most of the standards on these is they have nurses giving 60 vaccinations per hour. We know that's not realistic because we're doing this in the middle of winter. People are going to have to take their coats off. They're going to want to chit chat a little bit. Everybody's been cooped up in their house for a long time. So a lot of these people that will be coming to us have been anyway. So we have allotted 3 minutes per vaccine at the station. So we have it to where each nurse can do 20 vaccinations per hour. And that would allow for people to come back, take off their coat, whatever case may be, by the time they get ready to do their vaccination.
Big express line, no talking.
So all those, all your partners are, gotta log on to that, is it an IRIS system or whatever? Or do they report to you?
No, all the reporting will go through IRIS.
Okay.
And then, so there's a couple different reminders on the secondary dosing piece of it, right? Not only will they receive reminders from our software that they scheduled their appointment through, they will also receive reminders through the IRIS system. And then the feds have worked through a reminder system on theirs as well, because the IRIS system will upload into the CDC VAM system. The VAM system will send out reminders, IRIS is gonna send out reminders, and we are gonna send out reminders to get that secondary shot.
And then this is for Potawatomi County, or are we allowed to take in Harrison Mills, or how's that?
So this is for Potawatomi County specific. At the beginning, they did ask if other health departments wanted to join together and to be able to do these things. And we didn't really receive any responses from our neighboring counties. And that, I mean, it was okay with us because we were basically building this from the ground up. So this will be specific to Potawatomi County. Now, if you're essential personnel who lives in Potawatomi County, but works in Potawatomi County, but lives in another area, we will vaccinate those individuals because they are our essential personnel.
So how do you have to bring an ID with you then, I take it? We're gonna verify.
Yeah, with their, just because of the paperwork that we have to enter into the computer systems, we are gonna verify their information on an ID, and that'll happen at registration when they originally scan in. We just wanna check to make sure that their name matches the names on the paperwork, so as we enter it into the system, then we're doing it right.
Are they doing kids too then? Is it?
As of right now, there's not gonna be any vaccine coming for the kids, nobody under 18. All of the vaccines right now there's only one that's in development for under 18. All the rest of them are development for over.
Oh, really?
Interesting.
Oh.
What's your percentage of kids being sick, Matt, under 18?
It's a smaller percentage, it's creeping up. It has, but that's been kind of our population shift that we have been seeing happen in the age groups, the demographics. We're still running really high numbers in your middle 40s to 50 age range, but that 19 to 24 is really coming up there, and then you see slower increases once it drops down into the 18 and under. Those percentages are still smaller. It's more around what you see with the elderly community. Our elderly community numbers are still way down low too.
So do you get something that certifies or shows that you've got the 2 shots? Because today, I think it was on, I don't know, one of those morning shows was saying one of the airlines is gonna require.
So you do get a vaccination card
Okay.
that does get stamped off on, and that stays with you. Cause our entry goes into the database, into the IRIS system, which will be then uploaded federally to the federal system. But they will have, just a VAMS, or not, a vaccine card that comes as part of the ancillary supplies.
I can't remember which airline said, you're not gonna get on there.
You're talking later, they were all gonna do it later.
Well, it sounded like maybe they would all jump on board, but if you don't have your vaccines, you're not.
Can't fly.
Leaving your luggage on the plane and not boarding. Okay.
Well, Matt, I attended your presentation last Thursday, and it was quite impressive, so if everything works out and you get the newer volunteers you need to man the clinic, I think everything's gonna run smooth. It looks really good, really, really
How
good.
many personnel are you gonna need, or the more the better, because then you can work.
We need 60 different individuals on site at all times while we're there. So that was where we even opened
60
it.
volunteers, not your nurses.
Correct. So there'll be 10 different dispensing stations that we'll have 10 people giving shots. But at that dispensing, you take the dispensing station, at the registration counter, you have one individual that's at their counter, scanning people in, verifying information that they have the paperwork, send them back to triage. The triage area, you have just one personnel. That personnel is gonna review that paperwork with you, determine what vaccine you're available for, and then they will, put a sticker on there showing that's the vaccine you're gonna get. You go back to the dispensing station at that time. The dispensing station, we have 3 different individuals. You have the person who is dispensing the shot, you have the person who is prepping everything that the dispenser needs, and they'll prep that out on a pad, and it'll have your cotton ball, your bandage, your syringe that's wrapped, and the dose. It'll slide over to them, so that way they can see them open up the syringe, pull the dose out, and be able to vaccinate them, clean off their arm, do all that. And then they go back into our recovery area. At the recovery area, we have a few different individuals back there, because they have to wait for 10 to 15 minutes, make sure they don't have any adverse effects to it. Also, they'll be able to schedule for their secondary appointment. And then, so I gotta back up at the vaccine station. So at the dispensing station, you have the person doing the dispensing prep, and then you have an admin person. That admin person's gonna be entering into the IRIS information right there on site. IRIS is a little bit tricky of a system. Everybody is available to go online and check and find out if they have their own IRIS account set up already. I would venture to bet, a large percentage of people in this room do not have an IRIS account. And that just based on your age and how many vaccines you may have received so far. So if you don't have an IRIS account, that person's gonna have to set one up. And then if we have time for that person to set them up, we'll do that. If not, we're gonna pass it off, and we'll have a group of admin people sitting off to the side that will do those harder ones. Because we can write down everything that person needs to go. They can go ahead and go. We don't need to hold anybody up and make them wait while we do their IRIS account. We can pull that information off to the side, get the IRIS accounts done, and then that way we can keep our traffic flowing. But the admin portion of this is what's gonna be kind of the biggest thing. An H1N1, they just sat there and stacked the paperwork up, so then at the end of the day, they went there and they spent all night trying to enter in everybody's information, and there was a lot of data entry mistakes and things like that that was made.
So if I go to whatever iris.com, I can find out whether I'm in there or not?
Yeah, if you search Iowa Iris, and then there would be an account lookup, and you put in your name and your social security number, and it'll pull it up. My own personal one that we found is we were just trying to show different mistakes that it would make on there. My full legal name is Matthew Wyant. And so you punch Matthew Wyant in there with my birth date, nothing will come up. If you put Matt Wyant in there, then my Iris account comes up. So it's little things like that that we have to be able to watch for. So as we go through, some people will have a couple Iris accounts because they may have Matt and Matthew as an Iris account, and then you have to merge those two accounts to one and then put the information in.
So will they let me set up an account then if I don't have one?
No,
Okay,
we'll know at that time to.
set one out.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What are the odds though of Scott or anybody on this board getting a shot in your clinic? Most of us will get it through our physician, right?
Well, on my side, I would say I'd hope you come walk through so you can see what good job we did. But yeah, but most of you would probably.
Choice, sure, but I don't know, I mean, I'll probably be there.
Most of you probably will just, for whatever reason, you may have a doctor's appointment for something else. You may walk in there and they say, hey, let's get you set up for the COVID vaccine. And as long as you agree to it, it's not a forced vaccine. So as long as you agree and say, yeah, I do want the COVID-19 vaccination, then they'll be able to dispense it to you.
But will it be available at the doctor's office this December too?
Not by December, I would not say, no. I would say you're probably looking at we'll just say conservatively into January, February is when you'll be looking at it to hit there.
so do they,
can't
at
tell
the
you.
medical clinics, they put that stuff into Iris now already for vaccines?
Yes.
Okay.
Even if I get a shingle shot, it's in the Iris system?
Should be.
Okay.
So there'll be a card, I guess I'm curious how it works, cause like the military, you probably know this too, but it's like, I would get a flu shot in civilian world, and they're like, yeah, you don't have any record of that, so they just give you your flu shot anyway, so.
Yeah.
I suppose if they give you a card, then you're good to go.
As long as you don't lose your card.
That's right. The ancillary supplies only come with so many, so.
Yeah, we had a phone conference today in the ethanol plant about CO2 and how that vaccine, there's a big worry that there's not gonna be enough dry ice to be able to keep that at that sub temperatures they need to keep it at. And so they're trying to ask our industry basically how much CO2 can we produce, and so the conversation back was, well, you need to keep our plants running. I mean, at the end of the day, because we're one of the larger producers of carbon dioxide nationwide, so.
We asked the state specifically on Monday because Nebraska obviously came out in the media and said, hey, we got all kinds of storage facilities over here.
Yeah.
Would it be possible for us to just establish an MOU with a Nebraska partner to say, hey, we can store some of our vaccine over here? They did say that would be allowable if we establish that, and it's just a fail-safe deal. Because right now, we're not looking at getting into that vaccine, but if we have to get it, then at least we'll have the MOU established to say, hey, we can store it over here, and we don't have to do a 5-day pop-up clinic.
It goes in you at that temperature too, right? Like-
No,
Oh, so they
it's
won't
just stored at that temperature, so it comes out of that temperature, then you have to go through the process of reconstituting it, and it comes with a diluent to do that with.
Gotcha.
So there's a process that goes with it, but it does extend out the time where we do have a separate room set off to the side, just a strictly vaccine prep, and that's where the reconstitution of the vaccine will happen at. If we have to deal with that, they'll bring it back up to room temperature, reconstitute it, and then it will come out to the dispensing.
Oh, that's good.
Do you think, what do one of those freezers cost, man?
Anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000, and they're 3 to 4 weeks out. The state pressed heavily that we are not supposed to go out and purchase one.
They're not very big units.
No, they are very small, and even
They don't hold that much.
it's probably the size of your podium.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool, all right, well, let's move on to the next topic. Thank you for that update. Next, we have the discussion decision to approve signing an MOU with SWIPCO assisting to keep Test Iowa location in Potawatomi County. I think that's pretty straightforward. I mean, Matt basically reached out yesterday and said that, you know, we gotta get this taken care of in order for the state to move forward with their Test Iowa site, so that's really why we called the meeting today. Is there anything you need to put out with regard to this, other than what was written on it, or?
Just other than what's written on it, SWIPCO, when we approached them with the idea, they said that, yeah, they'd do anything that they could. They definitely wanted to be able to help out and partner with us in this area. And so we've been able to have the state come down, review the site. We also had another site lined up, but when they saw this one, they settled on it. They're like, this would be the one that we would want to get. So we have a few things that we're finishing up as far as making the building still work, because SWIPCO is going to share the building with Test Iowa. SWIPCO will be using everything that you see in Exhibit A in blue, and that's still to park their buses in. Coming out the front of that building, there was a loading dock. We've had that loading dock filled in, concrete put across there. We're also then, what we worked out with SWIPCO was that any increase in their utility costs, we will help them with that, and also any increase in their snow removal costs, because they were just getting kind of bare minimums done on their snow removal as well. So I think that this is gonna, you know, it's definitely needed in our area. We just checked this morning, and as of this morning for the month of November, 9,300 tests have been conducted in Potawatomi County alone this month. I mean, that is by far another new record set for the amount of testing that's happened in Potawatomi County.
That doesn't include the other testing people, or does?
It does. That's all testing in Potawatomi County.
So those other outfits also?
What's been reported from them.
Okay.
So we have had pop-up test sites, as what Mr. Belt was saying. We have, you know, the 88 Med, that's a pay site. Then we also have an HG screening that has now set up as a pay site that's down there. All of those tests get reported up to the state along with these Test Iowa ones. Test Iowa has definitely been one of the areas that the public has become more as comfortable with. They're comfortable with using them. They're comfortable with the process of getting in there and getting out. It's a really simplified process. And when the governor's office called and asked us to assist them in getting getting another location so they could continue through the winter, this structure really meets all those needs. In the two bays that they'll be coming through, there's 2 different heaters in there to be able to help heat and keep the staff warm. There's a nice size office area in there that wasn't being utilized that Test Iowa is going to be able to utilize. It met the bathroom needs. Really, it fit everything that can go with them. So I think it's definitely going to be a benefit to keep Test Iowa in our location for as long as we can. At least this goes through the end of April, and then whether or not they choose to go back outside at that time, I think it will be between them and
So
SWIPCO.
the current one they have, it's all done outside.
Correct. And they've been having to rotate staff in and out a lot to try to keep everybody warm, because it is set up out in a tent.
Okay.
Did he give you
I'll ask.
any indication on the utilities that are there now, the base utilities? what they're-
He did not give me any indication on what those
You
are.
haven't been there a year yet.
I would suspect they're pretty minimal, because it's very sparsely used.
Right.
I mean, it's basically just used as indoor parking, and I don't know that they actually heated the bays.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So now we got the heaters running and electrical, and we're gonna help them out with some Wi-Fi connectivity issues and things.
Okay.
Matt, just a few questions if I can. Is that building owned by the city?
No, it's owned by SWIPCO.
Swipco bought it, yeah.
You spoke with Matt Walsh, is that on a different building?
I did, yes.
Okay, we got that taken care of. You said the county has to put in some concrete and some fence?
Correct.
Where's that at on this site? Do you have costs for that? Yeah,
Not right now.
okay.
So right where, you can see the loading dock right there?
Yep.
That's filled in so that way they can pull the buses straight through, and they don't have to back out into the traffic, because by the time they go to leave with the buses in the morning, they will have Test Iowa people back there, so they won't be able to back the buses out and come around, so they're gonna drive straight out the front of the
So you're
building.
gonna fill this
It is, yes.
in? Okay.
So that's happened and it's been poured. The gate to the facility right now is right up here next to the building. So they're gonna come in and remove a section of fence down here, so they're gonna actually be able to enter in And that way, if they get somebody in here that they have to turn around, the only way to turn them around is to come right back out that way, because you can't come around the building. So they're gonna turn them around and come right back out.
Okay, and then this is just a process question. If it's fairly busy, you have one check-in station. People have to get out of their cars and go to the check-in station?
No, the check-in station will actually sit right here, and those National Guard people, soldiers will come out to the vehicles, and it's more just to keep them out of the weather when they can.
Okay, so we're not gonna have a traffic issue up in here trying to get to the.
No, they said what happens is, usually first thing in the morning, they get a lineup going, and so then when they get ready to open, those National Guard soldiers will go out and they'll just check everybody in, and then that traffic just flows out, so you kinda get a rush, then it dies down, and then it will pick up again around dinner time. He said you get another kind of rush to go through there. But we had to give those soldiers kind of a place that was out of the weather, so we did find a mobile office unit that's gonna get sat down, and it has contained heat and everything in there. So the county electrician is gonna go down and wire in a plug, so he will wire in that building. There's a panel here, so he'll be able to do the wiring to set that there. He's gonna set a junction box on the outside of the building.
Okay.
So we'll be able to power that mobile office that has heat at least established to it, and then they'll have to go inside to use the restrooms, but.
If I recall, and please correct me if I'm wrong, in our last conversation, you had mentioned something in the neighborhood of $21,000 a day to run it,
That is for our vaccination clinic.
not for this.
Not for this. When we go into our vaccination clinic, what we had estimated would be $21,000 per day just in staff time.
Okay,
Is that reimbursable?
It is.
so once we get the fence done, the concrete done, some of the preliminary stuff done, what's the cost to the county?
On this part,
Yes.
right now, I'm trying to keep it under $60,000 because I'm gonna be able to submit to the COVID fund and get those dollars from the COVID fund.
Those are upfront dollars. How about to staff it, run it?
Staffing, we have no cost. That all comes from the state. The only continuing expense we have is the utility and snow removal.
Okay.
Well, yeah, there's garbage and all this and stuff.
Yeah, they have their garbage,
It's listed in the thing.
well, yes, so separately, we have just a separate garbage piece that we may help contribute to them, but I'm thinking the bio waste of it is all done. That's all encapsulated in the Test Iowa. They already have those systems set.
Okay. Now, you can't get around the back of that building, huh?
Cannot. Because there's a fence that runs back there, because there's that cell tower site.
Okay,
So I think that cell tower must have a right of way through the east side of that property.
okay.
Okay, looking for a motion.
So moved.
Any motions or second?
Second.
Any other discussion?
The only other discussion is, Leanne, you reviewed both the Iowa short-term lease, I loved it. And the MOU.
The MOU, yes.
You didn't see the short-term lease?
No.
Okay. Well, I guess you didn't really need to because it's with SWPCO and, Iowa.
Yeah, I didn't forward that to the county attorney's office just because it didn't involve us.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right, thank you for that. And then last, we have a resolution 102/2020. Authorize the board sign the resolution entitled Transfer from Rural Services Basic Fund to Financial Assurance Fund.
What, this is for the transfer station, is this for the new?
So our recycling center is still officially permitted as a transfer station.
This is the new one.
So, and our permit renewal is due this year. And, so we had, Evora Engineering help with the permitting process of it. They do our yearly inspection on it. And our tonnages have increased like we'd hoped. But with that increase in tonnages, then that comes with a little bit of an increased cost on what the state requires us to hold off to the side as a closure piece of it. So they take a percentage of what your tonnages that you're running through the facility, and then that is how much you have to hold off to the side as a potential if the county can't ever decide to come in and close it, then we have that $11,000 set off to the side, because that's what it's gonna cost to close the site.
Well, this is, do we have a fund that's still sitting from the old ones, that's got money in it?
Correct, we had $7,500, we've always had $7,500 in it, and then this just increases that to 11,000.
Okay,
So it's just designated funds saying
but
that,
it has to stay there as long as it's running,
yes,
those funds.
correct.
And they're only can be used for if there is any issue with the site.
Yes.
Okay. So this year is the first time it's been 3,500 because of the new site.
Yeah, this will increase our 7,500 to 11,000,
11,000, yeah.
because the amount that we have to hold back is like $10,972.
But it's gonna be every year we're gonna have to do that.
No. So this is, once you do this now, then it sets over, unless Becky's there, she might chime in something different.
I'm here. Yeah, it just stays there. The 7,500's been there for as long as I've been here, and that $7,500 rolls into the rural basic balance for all financial reporting we have. So we're audited to be sure, and also Matt has to prove it at permit time, that we keep that fund assigned for that purpose and it doesn't get used for anything else. If we ever close and no longer use a transfer station or permit a transfer station, then that money would just be transferred back into the rural funds. So that's why we're adding that amount today so we can meet the new compliance.
Okay, the permit is an annual permit or a multi-year?
Every 3 years.
Okay, so every 3 years, if they come in and there's whatever, a third increase in our volume, then they're gonna ask us to make it higher, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll move that for you, Attorney Joe.
Okay, got a motion, I need a second.
Second.
Second, roll call, please.
Chairman Schultz,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman,
Aye.
Bell, and Groby.
Yes. I'll move to adjourn.
Got a motion to adjourn, is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thanks, Matt, for everything.
Matt, are you gonna